welcome back to Flying Solo with Kat. And today I'm going to take a tiny little break from The Acolyte to talk about a issue that Disney has had for a long time. But as we get farther into or farther away from Galaxy's Edge opening, which was 2019, I really wanted to bring up the merchandising problems with Disney, specifically Galaxy's Edge, and more specifically with the First Order merchandise and with the Resistance merchandise. From what I have seen and some gripes that I have, as well as hearing other people and how they are marketing their biggest ride, probably at Disneyland and, of course, in Disney World, at their Hollywood studios. So I really just wanted this video to kind of get my thoughts out there and kind of just talk about the state of the sequel trilogy marketing, their toys, as well as Galaxy's Edge. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. So I don't really have a set script for this episode. The whole reason why I wanted to do this episode, to just really sit down and talk about this problem, was a new pin set that they had at Galaxy's Edge. The only place that I really can find First Order merchandise is in the First Order Outpost, which that's what it's there for, right? That is totally not a problem. I get kind of wanting to have that First Order section, which of course I love. That's with Kylo Ren's command shuttle, and it's a little bit of ways from the Millennium Falcon and way a ways from Rise of the Resistance. So how Galaxy's Edge is mapped out, if you have not been or you haven't really seen it, is there's two entry points. The first entry point that's probably closest to Fantasyland. I'm talking about Disneyland, by the way. I'm been to the Hollywood Studios Galaxy's Edge, but I'm not familiar with the layout. So this is all from someone here in California, who is very much a Disneyland expert. The closest entrance from Fantasyland, you walk in, and that is your First Order area. It's where they have the First Order officer and stormtroopers a lot of times exit to come out and talk with the public. They have the Kylo Ren show where he shows up. Yes. You walk straight through and you see the Millennium Falcon, which is where Smuggler's Run is. You go to the left and you walk up a couple stairs where they have mostly their shops. You're going to have your lightsaber place, and then, or Sabi's workshop, and then you're going to have the droid depot where you can build a droid. You continue on to your right, where you have kind of the tiny little shops where they have a lot of the cute animals that you can buy. They've come out with these really cute toy dolls that are a lot of the sequel trilogy characters, which I think is really cute. They have Rey, Kylo. They just had Ahsoka. I believe they have Sabine. I think they came out with Hera as well. So a lot of Ahsoka characters as well, because we are in the sequel trilogy timeline, right? And of course you continue on, and then you have Rise of the Resistance, and then you have your exit, which kind of loops you around Adventureland and will bring you to where Tiana's Bayou will be and the Haunted Mansion in New Orleans Square. So Galaxy's Edge has a lot of space, which they have utilized, but I also feel like they have not utilized it enough, specifically with merchandising, which is why I made this video. So it was about a couple weeks ago, I went to Disneyland, popped into Galaxy's Edge a little bit, and I wanted to look at the new First Order merchandise. Y'all know me. I wanted to see if they had any new anything anything new that I would spend money on. And they had these really, really cute pins that, of course, were the mystery collection. And of course, they're all helmets. There's 12 pins in the collection, and each box includes 2 pins. And they're pretty good size. I've posted photos of them on Twitter if you are interested. at Avenger Cat, and it's about $20 a box, which is not terrible for the quality of pin and the size of pin, in my opinion. Um, but I turned it to the side. So it's very much marketed. It has the First Order logo on it. It is in the First Order outpost. You would expect it to be all First Order stormtroopers or officers, or even have maybe a Hux or Kylo pin. I really don't ask for much. They were in all three movies. Can we just, kind of market to them? And there's about four, four, okay, 2, 4, 6, 7, maybe 6. So half are First Order, and then the other half are Empire. And when I saw that, of course, my first 2 boxes were all Empire. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? The whole reason I got this box was for the First Order. Now, they do market it as a mystery box. And I did see that they had Empire on the box. That was totally, by the luck of the draw. But why are we putting Empire stuff in the First Order outpost? And then I started to look around. And now they don't even have it's not even all First Order anymore. They had Darth Vader things, they had Empire things, they had flags that were the Empire. And I'm just like, where's my First Order stuff? They had a couple new pins. One was BB9E that says Docking Bay 7 or 9. I think it's Docking Bay 7. And then they had a new Stormtrooper pin. No Kylo Ren pins, which in my opinion I think would sell very, very well, especially for kids. No First Order officer, no Hux pin, no Phasma pin, no Phasma as well, which I think is shocking, considering Disney loves to market Phasma because she is a female, which is a whole different topic that I really should cover. But none of that is marketed. We had a new shirt, which I actually did like. I will give them that. That said, I will finish what you started, and it had Kylo Ren and Darth Vader on it, which is good because it, canon-wise, it makes sense. It's not like you're just pairing up, like, Hux and Tarkin. Like, it doesn't, that doesn't match whatsoever. But Kylo and Vader, very much, the familial ties, and then as well as the movie, it connects. So I wasn't mad at that, but that was the only new thing that we had. And for one, it's not fully First Order. It did have the First Order logo on it, but you still have Empire stuff. Like, no. No. Empire should stay where Empire is, which is in the Galactic store. Oh god, I butchered that. It's right after you get off of Star Tours. All of that is going to be your OT and prequel stuff, which is fine. That store is super big. I love going into that store, specifically looking for OT things and prequel things. They do have a lot of Mando Grogu stuff in that store as well. That's where you find all your other Star Wars stuff that has nothing to do with the sequels, which is great. I love it. I love the store. I love how much they have in there. As well as just its layout. It's really cute and themed. Love it. When I go to Galaxy's Edge, I want that sequel merchandise. I am looking for that specific First Order merchandise. I want that Resistance merchandise because that is where the time period has set. That is what I'm looking for. And the fact that now they're kind of trying to influence the Empire up in there with the First Order concerns me for a lot of different reasons, which is what I will get into with this video, basically. Why is it so hard to market the First Order? That is such a big question that a lot of people don't. Originally, when I became a fan of the First Order, I didn't understand what people saw in the Empire and didn't see in the First Order. The First Order is way more menacing, way more powerful, and way more deadly, in my opinion, and actually kind of pose a threat. I'm talking about in the movies. You go back and look at A New Hope. Empire Strikes Back is probably the best example of the Empire using their full force. But even Return of the Jedi, we're not seeing a lot of what the Empire is doing occupation on these planets. There's not a lot of politics in OT. For some reason, people think that because there was a lot of politics in the prequels, there was an OT, and no. Yes, were there underlying tones of, like the Vietnam War and even World War One? Absolutely, that was George's original plan. But with the prequels, he really wanted to take that further, even before, and kind of explain how the Empire came to be, which I appreciate. I love that. And with JJ and Ryan, I feel like JJ kind of had this more in mind in a sense, especially with the Sith fleet that we see in The Rise of Skywalker. He wanted it to be very much like World War II, that it was fascist Germany, against the Americas. And that is done very, very well. A lot of people, now I don't like it, but a lot of people, when we relate to real world stuff, the First Order is very much the Nazi regime, is very much, basically everyone says Hux is Hitler, which he is not. Absolutely not. But I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube, but there are parallels to that, to those real world. Is Star Wars a fake universe in a galaxy far, far away? Absolutely. Which is why I don't really focus on the real world kind of issues as much. But when I'm talking about these videos and the real world consequences of these movies, I have to bring these things up. So, as for merchandising the First Order, that's hard. That's really, really hard because what a lot of people remember from the Empire, and, people that have money are adults, and a lot of people that I see buying the Imperial merchandise or stuff about the Empire, wearing shirts about the Empire, are a lot of older people that most definitely probably grew up with watching OT or watching the prequels. So, and you don't see people walking around with separatist t-shirts and, all of that. You really don't. The Empire's kind of the biggest one because I think Disney leaned into that as much as they could because they were kind of like, oh, okay, they're evil, but like none of our main characters are really killed, from any of these interactions, so it's fine. The most they went into was Empire Strikes Back, where Han was frozen in carbonite. But that wasn't even a flat out kill. It wasn't, and of course it was sad that the Empire kind of took over Bespin, but in actuality, when I watch it, I don't feel dread or I'm not scared of the Empire. I'm not. Now, when we get into Andor and we get into Rebels, especially, we see the occupation that the Empire is going through. Especially when you read the books, it's brutal. It's not good, and it makes me kind of not like the Empire as the movie should have done. When you go to the sequels and The Force Awakens, I mean, you see them in the first scene. You see all those stormtroopers kill those people flat out. And of course, that is such an important scene because we are introduced to our four main characters out of the rest of the cast: Kylo, Phasma, Finn, Poe, and BB 8. Sorry, 5. And just that entire scene is so integral where Poe gets captured. That is the first kind of point to where that movie's starting off, right? Finn does not shoot. Kylo notices that. Phasma picks up on it as well. So that scene was very brutal. And that was the first 7 minutes of the movie. Of course, we have the Hostinian Cataclysm, and of course, that big, powerful speech brought on by Hux in The Force Awakens. And you don't have those powerful speeches. You had a Tarkin kind of small monologue in A New Hope, but we didn't know Alderaan. We didn't feel anything for Alderaan. I personally don't feel anything for Hostinian Prime, but they showed people on those planets looking up at that red beam. I'm not gonna say you're not, you don't have a heart, but like if you didn't feel any emotion when you kind of like saw them looking up at it, I don't necessarily always cry in that scene, but I always feel saddened because I know with new Star Wars stories that we're getting, especially with The Mandalorian, we are going to start to see those people that are on Hostinian Prime and those families affected, which I think was kind of the entire point, was to set up that, and then as Star Wars does, we go back and we kind of fill in the pieces. So when people rewatch Force Awakens, they actually feel something. Um, so it's brutal. Starkiller Base was brutal. Kylo Ren was a menacing figure, but he really, quite honestly, he's not my favorite character in Force Awakens. I feel like he kind of falls to the sidelines. He doesn't truly grasp his even like identity. I don't even know if Adam really knew who he was till The Last Jedi. And he was like, hey, let's sit down with this character and really talk about it. So when you're trying to market for a what we're seeing on screen, which is a fascist regime we definitely kind of don't like. They're not like, oh, those are so cool. Only to me and like couple other people, I'm like, no, I love the First Order. Like, I think they're evil and awesome. And the First Order is like my empire to those people. But that's just because that was my first Star Wars movie that I really connected with and basically grew up with. So it's different for generations, but unfortunately, those generations are still trying to kind of catch up, especially the sequel trilogy generation. But it doesn't help when you don't give us good merchandise at all. If you had good First Order merchandise, I would be buying out your stores. I really, really would. Let's take a look at when I walk into the First Order outpost, what I see. I see a basic Stormtrooper action figure that is priced for $37. I'm not spending $40 on a Barbie doll sized regular Stormtrooper action figure. If they had a Sith Trooper, if they had a First Order officer with that, yes, I would totally buy that. That's sick. But they can't mass produce those, so they find the cheapest option, which is an issue with Black Series, an issue with any kind of distributor when it comes to Stormtroopers, especially with the First Order. You just get that basic white helmet, which is good. It's great. I love it. But I'm sick of it, and let's get some variants in there. I don't want to have to buy a white Stormtrooper and then have to paint him red. Like, that's not my job. They took out the Black Series First Order set, which had Hux, BB-9E, a R5 droid, a Stormtrooper, and then a Flame Trooper. It's a great set. And I was always delighted to see them in the First Order outpost because, for one, that was the only Hux merchandise they actually had at First Order outpost. And I was like, yeah, he's being represented. Also, the art on the box is amazing. I personally have it. I didn't get it at Galaxy's Edge, but I heard from someone a couple weeks ago, oh my gosh, they're not selling it anymore. Where can I find it? I'm only seeing eBay listings. I did a little research. I did find it on the Disney website. They are still selling that. But when I went to the First Order Outpost, it's gone. They don't sell it anymore at the First Order Outpost. So that is one more strictly First Order merchandise piece that is out. What did they do to fill that with? Yeah, do you want to get your 5 or 6-year-old binders? Yeah. They literally have handcuffs. Like, I have seen memes about these things. I have heard stories of how those handcuffs have not been used to their intended play. Um, Just why? Why Disney? Every time I see them, I'm like, it's like I have PTSD. It's like all those images flash in my mind. I'm like, oh my God, please. I can't do it anymore. So why? One, Disney. Just why? I've kind of wanted to buy it just because it's so freaking funny. But I'm also so embarrassed to just buy it flat out. You know what I mean? Like it's such a weird object to buy. Yeah, I want some handcuffs, please. Thank you so much. Like, no, I'm sorry. There will be lines that I cross, to get merchandise, but that line has not been crossed yet. I don't know. I am going in 2 days, so I might I might end up buying it. I will post if I do. But why Disney? Why please? I don't get it. They have the first order executioner like weapon. Here kids, who wants a executioner weapon so you can, hit them with each other? Like no, please Disney. Why? I have seen like 4-year-olds walk around with the executioner stick. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, get them a damn lightsaber. I'm embarrassed for your kids to have that. That is so not it. It's like either that or the freaking crop that Pride walks around with in The Rise of Skywalker. Like, there's no marketable means that you can market with the First Order that's not a lightsaber. I think, quite honestly, the Executioner stick is the best thing that they can do because in Force Awakens, that's who Finn fought with a lightsaber. But I'm just like, oh God. Like, they probably don't even know what that is and what that was used for in The Last Jedi, where it almost killed Finn and Rose. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, oh God, what are we doing? They do have a First Order officer's hat, which I do have. Um, my only gripe is that they heavily, 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 heavily market the 709 Squadron, which I guess is a squadron, a First Order squadron. I don't know. Like there's no character that I connect to with the 709. I don't. Maybe that if they market it more as like Phasma Squadron or something like that, then people would actually pick it up and be like, oh, wait, okay, that has Phasma in it. I remember her. She was cool. Oh my God. I feel like I'm spiraling only because I feel like people just don't realize that this is an issue and it sucks. The sequels as a product struggles in and of itself. You guys don't need me to tell you guys that. But with the merchandise, there's so little that we have. I mean, I was looking at Topps cards a couple days ago, maybe, online to see, sequel trilogy characters, which ones I could buy and stuff. And it's like, they're not even remotely expensive whatsoever. It's like, they're not even seen as like actual collectors things. I think the most expensive one was like $50, and that was like a rainbow Kylo Ren. Um, and it's like, it's disheartening because I really want the sequels to have the opportunities that OT and prequels had, and I just don't think it's their time yet. And I do think that Disney is not helping with kind of just forgetting the sequels exist. I fight for trying to get sequel comics made. I will read The Dark Horse of it all, which, if y'all know, I mean, I did a video talking about the issue number 8 of um, Star Wars Hyperspace, which are made for kids, as it is, but because I get so little sequel content, that's what I have to be okay with, which is okay. It was not a bad comic. I actually kind of liked it. But I'm sorry, kids are not going to buy your merchandise. Like, they're not. They don't have any money. So let's kind of try to start aging up, especially with the First Order, and starting to get some real merchandise out there. Because it's at the end of the day, it's really frustrating that this, IP that I love, Star Wars, but also just the First Order, is not being used to its full potential. And, people don't even know, what they're going to have, why they went away. I asked a amazing cast member. I never want to brag on cast members. This is all on Disney. But I did ask a cast member, like, okay, I see that you guys have a new shirt. Are you guys expecting to get any new First Order specific merchandise? Especially with the Black Series box now gone. Are you guys going to replace that? And she didn't know, which was fair. She even asked another guy, and another guy heard me talking. He was like, we're not sure. Those just got removed a week ago. Um, and we've been getting a lot of the more Darth Vader stuff in there. So, that is not the cast member's fault, as I will say 1,000 times, but that is all on Disney. And that is not okay when I walk into a First Order outpost and I start seeing Empire stuff. Nope. So, that's a big problem, which is just, it has partly to do with how the First Order is seen in the movies, but as well as Disney's not giving us a reason to buy stuff for the First Order. Even the Resistance as well. I think the only thing that I've really, really wanted from the Resistance line has been the pilot helmets. And that's really been it. There's not been much marketing besides the droid depot. We did just get do, we have bb8, but you gotta find a nice balance, because once you hit the droid depot, that's upwards of $60 and more, which I do have. I made my own bb9e. They're amazing. I love them. I do recommend doing the droid depot, but that's expensive for some kids. And there's a lot, but there's not. And I know that Disney also wanted to keep Galaxy's Edge very much themed to the sequels. That is one of the reasons why they do not have pin trading whatsoever in Galaxy's Edge. And also why their merchandise is kind of more spread out and in sections. You have kind of your plushy animal section. You have your high-end kind of collectors section. Then you have your Jedi robe section. You have your lightsaber, Savvy's workshop, and then you have your droid depot and the First Order outpost, and that's kind of it. So that's kind of that on that front. I do want to talk about Rise of the Resistance real quick before I end off this video, which is even more frustrating because with Smuggler's Run, okay, y'all know I'm kind of not a huge fan of Smuggler's Run. It's okay. It doesn't make me mad. It's just like, oh, it's so meh. Maybe because I have had a bad experience on it, but I feel like I'm never driving anything. It's just, it's so not, I don't know. It's not it. It looks better on film, in my opinion, than it does actually being in the seats and trying to just press random buttons. It's not it. But then you have Rise of the Resistance, which has kind of been famed as the best ride at least Disneyland. I think the only ride that it kind of competes with, now of course this is before Tiana's Bayou Adventure, but in California is Cars, which is such a great ride, a California Adventure. But every time people step out of that ride, I always hear that was, I think, the best ride I've ever ridden. And people wish I was lying, but it's not. I've ridden that ride thousands of times, and every single time, once I come out of it, I just breathe a sigh of just content, and it still is. I dream about that ride. It is so freaking good. So, when, and Disney, that is very much First Order. That you literally go into a First Order Star Destroyer, you see all the Stormtroopers, you see Hux and Kylo 2 times, mainly Kylo Ren, you would think they would try to market off of that more. They would be selling mini Star Destroyers. They would, kind of market more of like, oh, here, buy the finalizer. I think that's also why they have the interrogation cuffs. Or, you know, yeah, I'm still trying to think of why Disney would think that is okay to sell. Um, but it's just like none of that ride is expressed at all in the First Order Outpost, and I don't know why. Um, for me, it's frustrating. I was even trying to find Kylo pins, and it's like impossible. Hux pins, I've just given up on the search. There's no point anymore. When I do make it at Star Wars Celebration, I will not be in Japan, but whenever the next one is in the States, when I do go to that one, that's literally all I will be looking for because all I can find is from collectors, but they're not legitimate pins, which is really frustrating as well. But even Kylo, who's very marketable, who very much is the staple of the sequels, is not really seen at all in the marketing. I don't know if that has something to do with Disney, with Lucasfilm, with Adam and the rights to the character. I don't know how that all moves around because, of course, I'm not in the industry yet, and I will probably never be in that part of the industry. But it is a hard process. But I do think that Disney kind of needs to pick it up, especially with Rey's New Jedi Order. You're going to have a lot of people wanting Rey merchandise and wanting something new. And it could be because I go kind of every other week, which is my own personal problem. And I'm not seeing much new stuff, but which is fine. But when they start taking away things that didn't need to be taken away, that's when it starts to become on my radar. And that's when I start to get concerned. So I really hope this video in total made sense. I've been thinking about it for the last couple weeks, and I think it's important for Disney and just kind of for everyone to realize, that we've, as sequel fans, if you are a sequel fan, if you're not, whatever. But for me, I mean, I'm a full-fledged sequel fan, and don't, I don't get why they can't market it. And it's frustrating, that I love these characters. And Disney, I literally want you to take my money, and yet you're giving me things that I literally cannot buy or will not buy. And it's frustrating. So, as I said again, I hope this video made sense. And I thank you all so much for listening to my rant. And I will be back next week with the Acolyte episode 6 and 7. So thank you all for listening, and I will see you